tell me, how long did you live in Lawndale for?
Oh dear, probably off and on, probably about 9 years, off and on. Now, my father being in the oil business, the oil game, drilling oil wells, we moved around an awful lot. But I spent about 9 years, 9 or 10 or something of that nature. Went to school here, as grammar school type, things like that. And very interesting. Of course, there was no houses around here at that time when I was going to grammar school. And you could walk from my house all the way to Lawndale Central and usually see one house maybe at the most. But it was a very enjoyable time. I had a great childhood as far as here in Lawndale, and then we moved to Hawthorne from here. I didn't move very far, you see, but I enjoyed it as a kid, and I had no brothers or sisters, had a lot of good friends here, and they went to Lawndale Central, and there were three other fellows that went there that ended up as pretty famous musicians. The oldest one, Ray Sims, played first trombone for Les Brown for 34 years. The very youngest one, Jake Sims, which name is Zoot Sims, a very famous jazz saxophonist. He was always in the Playboy poll between he and Stan Getz, where he was either number 1 or number 2 every year. And the middle brother played for Horace Heidt for many years, played trumpet. Very musical family.
Les Brown's Band of Renown.
Les Brown, yeah, Band of Renown. That's where Ray played trombone for Les. Yeah.
Very cool. Can you tell us? I have all these prepared questions.
That's fine and dandy.
And they're somewhat in order, but at the same time they're
No, you do.
I may kind of follow up. And,
You do much better with coffee.
yeah, exactly.
So,
how did the area to be known as Lawndale come into being? So if you could just touch on the.
I wish I had the answer to that. Probably the one the answer to that that knows it explicitly what happened to how that all came about is Jim Osborne. He is quite an authority on how it transpired from a land grant to what it is today. And he has more knowledge about that than I. Because as a child, so it's when I only lived here as a kid, I went to high school here. I went to Lusinger, of course, and we weren't interested in what happened then, frankly. But Jim's the man to talk to on that.
Okay, no problem. What was the land like when you were, when your earliest recollections of the land?
Land was just very sparse with houses, very sparse, many open fields, and most people would leave their trash in the open fields. I remember very distinctly, I was walking to school to go to Lawndale Central. There was an old car in a vacant lot over by Eastwood at 147th Street. Every day we walked by, we took another part off of it. So first thing you know, there was nothing left but the frame. I don't remember what kind of car it was, but I remember that car sat there for a good year. Piece by piece it left. And as far as I know, I don't know whatever happened to it. But that's why I say you walk from your house, you didn't have to go to the corner, you just went across the field and you got to where you wanted to go. And there were so many different changes, like where that animal hospital is now at 147th and Hawthorne. That was a drugstore. It was a good drugstore and had a soda fountain, which most people don't even know what a soda fountain is today. But that's where you go in and you get your cherry Cokes or your sodas for 5 or 10 cents, period. And on this area right here was where we are now, was Lawndale Central Grammar School. And I lived on Eastwood during 1933 at 2 minutes to 6 on March the 10th, 1933. It's when the big earthquake hit. They call it the Long Beach earthquake. The only reason they call it Long Beach because no one knew where Compton was at that time because there was not a commercial building left standing in Compton. It was leveled. Long Beach got hit very hard. There was a vacant field right next to our house, and in the about 2 vacant fields away there was a palm tree. I remember running outside and trying to stand up, which I couldn't hardly. It kept knocking me down. This palm tree was shaking so bad that all the palm fronds were flying off. They were just raining down on the ground. That's how bad it was. And then they had another big one hit at 3 o'clock in the morning. That was an aftershock. That did an awful lot of damage everywhere along those lines. But it was a good time then because it was families, and you never knocked on a door. You just walked in on your neighbor. I'm here, and nobody got paranoid. You could walk down the street at 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Your mother, your sister, and never have to worry about it. Those were good days. Those were good times. They really were. And then on the corner of Hawthorne Boulevard and Rosecrans on the southwest corner was called the Lighthouse, which you've got a picture of that. And it was a drive-in. And in those days, you had a lot of drive-ins. And they had shrimp, the whole ball of wax, which was great. And then on the opposite corner, on the southwest corner, in the 40s, first part of 41, there was a little stand there, had no booths and outside, and it was almost like a shed where they served hamburgers, hot dogs, where every kid hung out. It was a hangout. We called it the 100 Mile an Hour Club, and showed off cars, Model A Fords that you bought for $15 or $20, And my first car was a 1927 Model T Ford. I paid $3 for it. And, oh yeah, $3. And all Model A's were running between $5 and $15 for a long time. Yeah. But like I said, your daddy was only making maybe 10 cents an hour at the most, if he was working. Period. This was during the Great Depression. Period. Had a good time. I enjoyed it.
All right. Kind of just piggybacking on that question, what were the people like?
The people were, anybody that's from the Midwest, that's the way they acted here. Everybody knew everybody's business, very friendly, and in those days too, when you're a child, up to your teenage years, if some adult says, now don't you do that, don't care if it's your mother or father or total stranger, the child didn't do that because the adults had the authority and the kids respected that authority. Oh yeah, there's a few rogues, but 99% adhered to those rules, period. And they invite you over for dinner, whatever they had they would share, because everybody had a little garden in the backyard. And during the Depression, if you grew corn and I grew beans, we would trade. So we'd have something to eat for dinner. During the Depression, I always did say, I never missed any meals. Postponed quite a few, but never missed any. But things were so far more laid back, Nobody locked a door. There's no locks on doors. People left their keys in the. There's no saying, where's the keys to the car? Says, you darn fool, they're in the ignition where they belong. Nobody paid attention to that. Didn't have to worry about stealing. But those days are gone, I'm afraid, unfortunately.
So, your earliest recollections of Lawndale was a lot of wide open spaces.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
What kinds of infrastructure, roads and buildings and stuff like that, came along, that eventually became,
Well, Hawthorne Boulevard was, at those days too, they had a streetcar called the Red Car. Well, right down the middle of Hawthorne Boulevard. It started in Hawthorne, through Lawndale, down the beach, to San Pedro, and back around here. You could ride in that thing, would go 60 miles an hour for 10 cents. I didn't bring a picture of that. I should have brought a picture of that one too, I guess. But the infrastructure, the streets were very narrow, of course, because and a lot of the streets did not have sidewalks and curbs. They were just gravel, and but and no signals. I don't remember a signal. The only signal they had around that time was Rosecrans and Hawthorne Boulevard. There was no signals at 147th Street or Marine or Compton then they called it. And but the water system was great. Had all the water. All of your utilities were fine then, as far as that's concerned. But and most of the time there wasn't any potholes. Well, there was potholes because some of them were dirt roads. Period. But all in all, it's been very. Of course, it was owned by the county then. That was before it was incorporated to Lawndale, and the county took care of a lot of the infrastructure. And but like I said, everybody helped everybody else. Period. There was no hooray for me, to heck with you type thing.
All right. What was Lawndale like growing up? What did kids do for like fun back in those
Oh
days?
dear. Well, we played all kinds of games called kick the can. I don't know if you know what that is. It's like,
Isn't that what the state legislature is doing right now?
well, yeah, they're kicking it around. But a kick the can was like hide and seek. Whoever was it stood by a can, and so instead of running in, say, free, you'd kick the can, you'd have to go chase it, and you'd run off and hide again. And we played regular hide and seek, climb trees, sit up in trees, and if there was a loquat tree around anywhere, we'd sit up and eat loquats all afternoon. And I don't know if you know what a loquat is, but it's
I have one in the backyard.
you got one, and then you know what they are, because we used to eat loquats all the time. And then that church is still on 147th Street. We used to go to that church every Sunday, and things of that nature. And it had all kinds of. We played baseball out in the vacant lots, played football in the vacant lots, and I just chased each other around, just like. And we had our soap boxes, and the scooters. They have scooters, which was nothing but a 2x4 with old worn out skates, with an apple box on it, something to hang on to. That was our scooters then, and we made them ourselves. And soap box we made, and we had to make everything. We had to make our own toys. We knew we had any money, for goodness sakes. But the kids, well, of course, the kids got in fights. But like kids always get in fights. But the thing is, you get in a fight. When you hit high school, you get mad. Okay, meet in the parking lot. Go out there, punch each other in the nose, shake hands, and go out and buy a hamburger together, and became friends. Because there was not the animosity, there had no drugs in it at all. Only time I thought about a drug was some Oriental sitting down in an opium den somewhere, curled up on a bed. That was the only type of drugs that we knew then. Period. But the kids all got along. Everybody you knew. Like I say, you knew everybody. There wasn't that many people here. Period. Which is a great time. Tom Brokaw had it right. When he said the greatest generation. I don't know if you ever read his book or not, but
I have it, but
you got to read it.
I haven't had a chance to really sit down and read it.
It'll really enlighten you as far as those days were concerned. How everybody pulled together, and it wasn't this, and everybody didn't have to have a new car every other year, and you didn't buy something unless you had the money to pay for it. There was no such thing as credit cards. There was no welfare then either, and there was. Roosevelt did put the WPA in, which most of the sidewalks and curbs were put in Lawndale by the WPA. The WPA, you had to go out and work. You may dig a ditch. You made 2 ditches. The second ditch, from the dirt, fill the first ditch that you filled, because you were out working. You didn't sit home and get a check like you can today. You worked for your welfare check at about $15 a week or something like that. Gasoline was 10 cents a gallon, and a lot of people couldn't even afford that. pull in the gas station and maybe get 2 gallons. Period. But it was fun. It was good. It was great.
You know that, some of the old timers that I've talked to already, this is a recurring theme that, when people talk about the Depression, my parents, grew up in the Depression.
Certainly.
My dad, he grew up in this area.
Right.
He, served in World War II in Korea.
Yep.
He's going to turn 88 this coming September 11th.
I'll be 87 in December. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so then you're right. Or
Yeah, same.
I don't know if you know my dad. His name's Tom Strickfadden.
Boy, that name is familiar. Very familiar. What?
Well, actually, I had the same name too.
Well, yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
But he was in the infantry, 78th Lightning Division.
Oh, well, I was flying for the Navy, and.
I was in the Navy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was in during the Carter administration, and
Oh, bless you.
the early years of the Reagan administration.
Yeah. Well, that's good, but.
Unfortunately, nothing happened on my watch, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Except for that little incident in the Middle East.
Oh
where
yeah,
planes
with Carter. Yeah. Well, we won't go in.
were banging into each other.
Oh yeah. I was flying 4-engine bombers with the Navy, and B-24s is what we were flying then, and had a good time. Got shot down 3 times.
Wow.
Outside of that, and I jumped out of the first one, and I made my mind right then, no way, I'll do that again. And people who jump out of airplanes are nuts, The minute I stepped out and pulled that ripcord, I thought, what am I doing here? I don't like this. And second time I got it back on the ground. The third one I put in the English Channel, and it's still there. So I know what Sullenberg went through when he put that bird in the Hudson River, well, like I said, I'll tell you the same thing that I bet Sully will tell everybody that asks him. We were at the controls. We did not land it. He did. The man upstairs landed that airplane for me because it was so, I never made a smooth landing like that in my life. It was so smooth. But the British had the most marvelous air-sea rescue in the world. They had 2 boats in various sectors. So I called them. I knew I couldn't make the cliffs of Dover. I called them and I said, get to us. And 4 of my men bailed out because they never bailed out before. And I said, get to them, that water looks awful cold. I said, get to us too, because I don't want to be in the water too long. We're going to take about heading to 271, so get to us. Set that thing down and got the rest of my crew out, opened the top hatch, walked across the wing and stepped into the boat and never got my feet wet. So,
Whoa.
the man upstairs was looking after us that day, I'll tell you for doggone sure. So, but,
Wow, that's amazing.
it was amazing, and absolutely amazing. But I'll say I wouldn't take $1 million for the experience. I wouldn't give you a plug nickel to do it again. Period. Only 2 people know how scared you are. You and your laundryman.
Yeah.
You can cut that part.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I had a little bit of dealings with the Brits when I was in the Navy, and it was amazing how ship-shaped they were.
Oh yeah.
They were a very disciplined organization. I mean, we were too.
Yeah, but
But it was amazing how it seemed like they were just like that next level of discipline and
discipline. However, I went aboard a couple of their ships. I went aboard one of their submarines one time too. And I'll never forget it. In the chief's quarters, it said, "Attention all chiefs. For better morale, it would be better for you if you would think about bathing at least once every 2 weeks to give a good impression to your men."
Oh my goodness.
Of course, when we were in Gibraltar, I was based in Gibraltar.
You're sure that wasn't a French sub you were on?
No, well, French. I mean, every 2 weeks? No, maybe every 2 years. Anyway, I'm not fond of the French. Anyway, but in Gibraltar we had saltwater showers. Did you ever take a saltwater shower?
No, we had evap's on our ship, so.
They had saltwater showers and saltwater soap, which is like rough emery board, and the soap is. We were allowed to have fresh water once a week. The rest of the time was saltwater because Gibraltar only gets their fresh water supply from the rain. They have a slab on the leaf the east side of the rock that's all concrete. It goes into a cistern, and they don't have a lot of fresh water. At least then, they do now, I'm sure. You know, I think they wanted desalination, but that was a funny experience on the rock. Period. And I enjoyed it.
Wow.
I enjoyed it.
We passed by that rock a few times.
Yeah, I can imagine. Oh yeah, yeah.
Amazing. We definitely need to swap some Navy stories.
Oh, you got that? Oh, I got some. I got
You know, we're
some.
the only ones that like them, I guess. You know, I try telling them to civilians, and they just go.
Oh yeah, yeah. They had. We had one funny thing happen in Gibraltar. As a matter of fact, the generator on number 3 engine was always giving us trouble, and my plane captain come to me one time. I was in the O Club, and he says, "Skip," he says, "don't worry about the generator anymore. You're punching out 28 volts." I said, "Yeah, I'll believe that, Pappy, when I see it." You know, sure enough, man, I'm telling you, it was a great generator. That same afternoon, we had a staff meeting. The skipper was irate about something. We said, "Oh, what do you mean?" He says, finally got around to the point. He says, "If I ever discover which person stole one of my generators off my airplane, I'll court-martial him." Needless to say, we kept our mouth shut. But Pappy was, I still talk to him. I still talk to my co-pilot and my plane captain. And Pappy is 92 years old now. We call him Pappy because he was 6 years older than the rest of us. He was 26, we were 20, so we call him Pappy. Yeah, the old dude. Yeah, we'll have to get together and swap stories one of these days,
Yeah,
off camera.
exactly. Yeah, definitely off camera.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Let's see. Okay, back to Lawndale.
Yep.
Okay. Well, you're kind of answering some of my questions, you know, a little earlier.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's all right. It's all right. It's all right. But let's talk a little bit about the school. So, could you reiterate where you went to school again, and tell us what were the schools like back then?
Schools were very disciplinary. Very. At those days, the teachers had complete control over the students from the time they left their house in the morning until they got back to their house at night. If you were doing something wrong on the street, and the teachers would patrol the streets. If you were doing something wrong on the streets, you got disciplined by the teachers, not by the police, but by the teachers. But by the same token, and I speak to a lot of the kids at Lusinger at least twice a year, go around their classes and speak to them. And I said, in those days, everything was so strict, and they are appalled at some of the things I tell them, such as, if we got caught holding hands on campus with your girlfriend, you were suspended for 1 day. You know, that was totally immoral, and things, and you never talked in class. And the thing that it really upsets me today, I can't tell the teachers from the students the way they dress. Because when I went to school, in grammar school and high school, the teachers, the men wore suits and ties, the ladies wore nice dresses. Now they wear tank tops and flip-flops, for crying out loud. And the way the kids dress today, they would have been expelled immediately if they ever tried to come on campus dressed like that. A lot of the time, the girls would have to, if they had any doubt, had to kneel down, and if their dress did not touch the floor, they went home. But now, you know, it's unreal, and I don't know how. And there's no discipline in class anymore. I mean, I see it all the time when I go to the classes, and the teachers don't seem to have any authority whatsoever. Kids do what they want to do, but then, like I said, the teacher you respected with awe. They were the primary person in your life when you were there. May not like them, but at least you respected them and things like that. But things do change. As far as I'm concerned, not for the better sometimes, but you know, it just, I guess that's progress, if they want to call it that. You know.
Yeah. So just for reference, where did you go to school again? You went to Central?
I went to Central, and I went to Lusinger.
Okay, and Central School was 1 through 8?
Yes, yeah. Because they didn't call them elementary or junior high. It was grammar school and high school. Grammar school was from 1 through 8, or K through 8, kindergarten through 8. You know.
Okay.
And I also went to Weisburn too. I graduated from Weisburn, which is Weisburn school. The school I went to now is Dana, and it was called Weisburn then. You know.
So you went to Lusinger for the first 3 years, and then you graduated from Weisburn?
No. Weisburn was a grammar school also. I went there in the 7th and 8th grade, and then I went to Lusinger all 4 years. And at that time, Lusinger only had 981 students in the whole school. Now they've got that in 4 classes, you know. And but you know, I went from there, and but had a lot of time at Lawndale. Mrs. Butler was my teacher. I'll never forget her. She's just a great gal, as far as I'm concerned. And we all fell in love with her, of course, you know, and things like that. But she was a disciplinarian, and things like that. But you know, I enjoyed school because well, I wasn't a good student, but I tell all the students over there, I ask them, what kind of grade average you got? They'll pop up, you know, 3.5, you know, 3.2. And I says, well, I tell them, I says, I carried a 4.0 in high school. And they said, oh, that's great. I said, yep. When I was a freshman, I had a 1.0. When I was a sophomore, I had a 1.0. Junior had 1.0. Senior had 1.0. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 4.0, isn't it? And the kids roar when they hear this, you know. It's and they think, well, I guess he's human after all. But
Wow. So what was Lusinger like?
Lusinger was a very close-knit school. Like I say, everybody knew everybody, and there wasn't that many teachers then. And but it was when the teacher says, "Be quiet," you stayed quiet, or you didn't jump around. You didn't talk. You didn't chew gum, or anything like that. When in the math class, so like in geometry, you're studying theorem, you could hear a pin drop in that class, period. Because there's only, they didn't have the outbuildings that are there now. All they had was the main building, which is the main building. And they had the gym, which had a swimming pool there then. And that was the only 2 buildings. Well, the cafeteria, which is a very small building, it's still there. But now they've got those outbuildings over on which they had the streets there. We used to park our cars there, but now they're all filled up with bungalows, as it were, or regular buildings with classrooms. And there's, what they got there, something like 4,000 kids in their school right now, which is 4 times more than what we had.
It's practically a carrier.
Yeah, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
So did you play any sports at Lusinger High?
I ran track. I ran the 50-yard dash and the 660 because I was so enamored with one of the coaches, Foy Draper. He won the 660 in the 1936 Olympics in Germany, and we revered this guy. And because I said that's what I want to do is run track, and I wasn't very good at it, but I had a lot of fun, as it were. And Foy was a great teacher, and although he created a scandal for a while because he married one of his students. In those days, you know, phew, that was never done. But then he was in the Air Force during the war, flying P-51s, and got shot down and killed. But a great guy. And but Coach Thompson was the head of the athletic department. He was one tough cookie. You better toe the line when he was around, otherwise you got whacked.
What sport did he coach? What sport?
Well, he was head of all of them. I mean, he was athletic director,
Okay.
but most of the time was football, you know. But he had charge of all of it. And those days too, if you got out of line, the teacher could paddle you. And I remember the paddle because he had holes in it. And when they hit you, that kind of stung.
So what kind of a football team did Lusinger have?
Championships. They had CIF, and baseball was. We had very good championship of CIF, and then some of them went on to major leagues, like Larry Ward. He went to the major. He went to the major leagues, and those days we didn't have that swimming. one of the fellows that I went, that was my best friend, he was state diving champion from there. And we've had a lot of, since then, of course, what was Scott's last name? He played with in the majors, and but you know, a lot of good people come out of there in the sports.
We actually have some footage that was shot of the Lusinger High School football team.
I've seen that footage.
Do you know anything about that footage?
No, but Jim does. Jim's the one that got it, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Yeah. But I think that was probably shot in the 30s.
It was. It was.
And did you? So that's kind of like almost the same time, maybe just a little bit, I think, before you, right?
Yeah, yeah. But they wore leather helmets. You know, they didn't have the regular helmets they have now, and you didn't have offensive and defensive teams. The same team played both sides, period. And but of course, then after every football game, we held our football games mostly up in Inglewood, at Sentinel Field, because our field didn't have the grandstands for it. The only thing I really missed out in Lusinger right now is why they closed the swimming pool, and I thought that was great. Another thing too that we had then we don't have now, which I think is a travesty. We had wood shop, metal shop, radio shop, auto shop, aircraft shop, any kind of vocational shop. That's where I got my training in flying. I got my license in 1940 because I'd go to the aviation shop, get out of school at 3:30, take my bicycle ride down to Gardena Valley Airport, wash an airplane or something like that to give me 10 minutes of flying time. And that's where I got my license. Got it in June of 1940. Yeah. But the kids are missing all this. To learn a trade without having to go to a university, you know, they could become a carpenter, they could become a mechanic, and things of that nature. And I think it's a shame that they had to pull. Of course, I understand restraints, money and constraints, but the kids are the ones that are suffering, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, period.
That's too bad. Can you tell us a little bit about your dad and his role in your life and potentially living in Lawndale?
We were a very close-knit family. I had no brothers and sisters. I had a magnificent childhood. My father was, well, of course, most people think of their father as a god, you know. He could do no wrong. He's a hard worker, but he had one trait that was a little bit strange to most people. We were sitting around the house on a Friday night, and Dad liked to travel. And when he wasn't working, he says, "Let's go somewhere." Mother said, "Okay, where do you want to go?" He said, "I don't know, let's load the car up and just take off." "Okay, let's do it." We did. On Sunday morning, we took off. 3 months and 10,000 miles we came home. We circled the United States. Went down through Texas, Louisiana, Alabama, Florida, up the coast, into Waterbury, Connecticut, and over, and then we went to the 1933 Chicago World's Fair, and then through Yellowstone and come back home. That's what he was. He'd travel. He loved to travel. Sitting around one night about 7 o'clock, and he was from Texas originally. And he said, "I'd like to see my cousin Marie." He said, "Well, okay." And she lived in Texas. He said, "I think I'll go see her." "Okay. I'll leave in 2 hours. Anybody who wants to go can." In 2 hours, we were on the road to Texas. On the trip around, we were in a 1929 Model A Ford. I know we came out of Waterloo, Iowa, way before dawn. We found out why they call it Waterloo, because it started raining in 10 minutes, the whole streets were flooded. And we made 500 miles that day. We stopped way after dark. We set a record, 500 miles in one day, driving. That was unheard of those days, period. That's what he was. He was a great guy. The oil wells we had over here in Lawndale had quite a few oil wells. He brought the first oil well in. I've got a picture of it in my book with his oil well. That was back in the 20s, but he was a real tough cookie. I mean, he was tough. He came home one day, his nose is laying over here. Mother says, "What happened to you?" He says, "Oh, Ernie slipped with a sledgehammer. Didn't bother him at all, period." But I'm glad I wasn't it's his age and got in a fight with him, because he'd just kicked the living daylights out of you. But a very gentle man on top of it, and very gracious, very giving, and like we did everything together. It was mother and dad didn't go off by themselves and get a babysitter. I went with them. Period. Great childhood. I wish every kid could have the same kind of childhood and parents that I had.
That's great. When did Lawndale's growth really begin to accelerate?
Oh dear, probably, I'm making a wild guess. Probably in the mid-60s it started. And then gradually, and then when it really took off was when the present administration with Harold Hoffman as mayor came in. They really took off then. He's done a magnificent job in my book, and as he can see the future, it seems like, and he goes that he goes that route. Let's see what we can do for Lawndale. And I think the administration's done a great job with his leadership, and now that Jim's on, it's even going to get better yet. And he's innovated things that most cities are very envious of, like the billboard sign that lighted sign tells what's going on, and the little buses and things like that. And I love the street lighting, that old-fashioned street lighting routine. It's all due to the administration here, But it started slowly in the late 60s and 70s, but then it didn't really take off until, 10, 12 years ago is when it really started booming bad,
All right. What was the effect of Los Angeles County on Lawndale before Lawndale became incorporated?
Oh, probably like a lot of the other cities, it was kind of an orphan. That you didn't get the service that you can get right now. Period, like that. Not throwing mud on anybody, but the county was so spread out, they couldn't concentrate so much on one little entity, and that's the reason they decided to incorporate. I think was just not to have that stigma of, not a stigma, but dependent upon the county, where they could do their own. But the county did a pretty good job. There's no question of that. But they were so limited that they couldn't expand like they have been recently. I have no qualms about the county, but I think they've done, since they got away from the county and incorporated, it's come to life, or as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. What was the community identity like in the early days, and do you think that identity has remained throughout the years?
To a degree, I think the identity, to sum it all up, is community and family. I think that'll probably sum it up about the best that I could come up with. Because I remember years ago it was that way, and I think it's the same today. Everybody that I've come in contact with here is very friendly. Total strangers, but they're still friendly. Period. And I think that exudes throughout the whole system of the whole city. No matter if it's here, if it's 169th Street, you still get the same camaraderie, as it were. That's my personal opinion, anyway. Yeah.
Okay. So Lawndale is a pretty good place to raise
Oh,
a
absolutely,
family.
absolutely. Oh, yes, absolutely. The schools are good. You got good schools. It is here for a while. A very good friend of mine, Sandra Suarez, is. I don't know if you know Sandy or not, but
Oh yeah, she's a great lady.
great lady. And I've talked to some of the elementary schools through her, because Because, she's got so many children, and she's been in every school. She's got 10 children, So I've talked to some of the grammar schools. Fourth grade students, which I think are great because they're like sponges. But I'll never forget one kid. Excuse me.
Would you like something to drink?
No. Jonathan, his kid, come up to me and he said, Mr. Dixon, when you were young, he says, did you ever go hunting? I said, yes, son, I did it when I was young, but I don't anymore. I don't believe in killing innocent animals. He says, well, when you were hunting, did you ever hunt one of those, what do you call them? Mastodons? So I said, no, Jonathan, that was even a little bit before my time by several million years, but this kid, I'll never forget him, hunting mastodons. I laughed, and Sandy about broke up over that. She heard it. We talk about that still, No, she's a great lady. She's great. She's good for Lawndale. I'll say that for her.
That's a fact. She's been very nice and very helpful to us.
Oh yes, I don't doubt that.
Remember Abelia Day?
Oh, he's been in charge of that all the time. I've been on that committee with her ever since inception, and we have a great time over there. Period.
Yeah, she's a very nice lady.
Yes, she is.
I don't know if you knew Kenny Hahn,
Oh yes.
but can you talk a little bit about Kenny and how he affected this area?
Well, Kenny he thought about the community. He did everything he could to do it. Tell you a little story about when I lived in Hawthorne, I was co-chairman of the parade that they had back in the late 50s, early 60s, which an invitational only parade. We had Rose Parade floats in that parade. Well, one year, Kenny Hahn was our grand marshal. So my wife and I, and she was secretary of the fair, we talked to him for about 10 minutes, I guess, at the most, before the parade started. And he wanted to know all about the family. I told him about our little dog, Peppy, and things like that. And, excuse me, and about 4 or 5 years later, I belonged to the Kiwanis Club. We had Rotary and Kiwanis Club meeting, joint meeting, and Kenny Hahn was the speaker. He got through with the speech, and I walked up to him, and I said, a very nice speech, Mr. Supervisor. He says, oh, yeah, hi, Walt. He says, how's everything with you and Flo? Is your dog Peppy still running around the house like crazy? I said, how in the world do you do that? To remember names and places. He says, how do you think I get elected? Great guy, great. And Janice, I met Jan because Jan used to be the representative for the Edison Company. And she's a nice lady. Her philosophy is a little different than Kenny was, as far as that's concerned. But Kenny, if you really needed something in your community, he would break his back almost to see that community got it. He was elected, my gosh, for years, just on the strength of that, period. A well-loved man, I thought, I loved him to death. He was great.
Yeah, he did a lot of nice things for
Yes,
us.
yeah, you bet.
But are you sure I can't tuck into that water?
Yeah, why not? Oh, you got it right there. Yeah, sure, are you sure that's water?
Sure is.
It could be vodka.
That's what I mean. And I don't drink at all. No, best drink was ever invented.
Yep, that's my favorite.
Absolutely. No, you got coffee.
Well, but that's my favorite.
Oh, I don't drink coffee either.
Well, I spend a lot of time reading at night.
Yeah.
And I usually don't get to bed until around midnight. So when I get up at like 5:30,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's by the end of the week I'm starting to drag. a
I
little
understand.
bit,
No, I drank coffee for a
so
long
it
time.
helps. It does help.
Yeah, but
Baby taught me this.
yeah, that's the reason I don't drink coffee today. I had a ground crew chief out by the airplane, and he had a 2-gallon Joe pot full of grounds and water. He would never change the grounds. He had a blowtorch on it all the time. We get ready to fly a mission. He said, "Here you go, Skip," and give me a cup of coffee. One sip of that, you couldn't close your eyes for 12 hours. You could almost put a spoon and stand up in it.
Yeah, I drank drank some of that.
Oh yeah. Oh, well, Navy
Just
coffee.
keeps percolating all day long.
No, it didn't percolate. There was no. It was just a
Oh yeah,
regular,
just sitting there burning.
just burning with a blowtorch on it. No percolator type. You know.
Wow. Yeah, let me tell you a real quick,
Sure.
interesting story about when I was in the Navy. When you first get on the ship, of course, you have to do, your mess duty or whatever. I think
I
it's
guess.
probably the same. When you first get on, you have to work in the kitchen or whatever. Well, I was on the aircraft carrier, and I ended up working in the stores
Ah.
for the galley. And what happened was I was, in charge of Hole 3, Deck 4, and that was where they kept the coffee.
Oh boy. Yeah. Okay.
So what happened was, I all of a sudden found out, my goodness, I have power.
Yeah. Well, I bet you did. I bet you did.
Because they always rationed out coffee based on how many,
Yeah.
people you had in your division. And, I was going to a computer division. I worked with computers. And it was only 24 guys in that division, and they went through their coffee ration like that.
Oh sure.
So they found out I was in, stores and said, hey, can you get us some coffee? I go, no problem. I grabbed a 20-pound tin, it was like, about so big.
Right.
And I brought that down to the division, and they just, whoa, my goodness, we have coffee for days. So they always had coffee. And then, I ended up hooking up another buddy of mine who, he was, it's interesting because even though the aircraft carrier very big, there is division even within divisions, like the cooks and
Yeah.
stuff,
Yeah.
It's like, you'd think that they would be able to requisition coffee
Yeah.
anytime they want. Well, I had a buddy who worked in the officer country, and he was running low on coffee all the time too. So I would always shoot him a can.
Sure.
And you know what he would do? He'd come down with these big giant, like, tureens filled with like breaded shrimp.
Oh,
Say, here you go, boom.
Yeah.
And he'd see me standing in line, waiting for, chow in the galley, and he'd say, come on with me. And he'd go and he'd get one of the trays, and he'd put we'd have surf and turf some nights, every once in a while. And he'd take a steak, throw that on because it was the officers' mess. So they had steak, surf and turf quite a bit, apparently. And he would grab a lobster and a slab of steak, and he'd throw it on a plate, and he'd say, here, you sit in the back of the galley here, and you can eat your dinner. So worked out pretty nice for
Well,
me.
we had green powdered eggs, pork and beans with ketchup on top, and coffee.
Sounds like a good Navy breakfast.
Oh yeah, it was funny. I went in as an enlisted pilot, and AP, and we've been overseas about 3 months, I guess. Skipper called me in his office. I said, "Oh God, what am I in trouble for now?" And he says, "You're enlisted." And I said, "Yes, sir." He says, "You were an Eagle Scout, weren't you?" "Yes, sir. Highest rank in Sentinel Valley." "Is that right?" You're no longer enlisted. You're an ensign." So that's where I got my commission.
Wow.
And but then we had another skipper come in. His real name was Aram Urim Paranak. We call him Ak, of course. And he was one tough cookie, but he was fair, but he was tough. He really looked after his men. So believe it or not, he called me last November. He was 96 years old. First time I talked to him. And when the phone rang, I thought it was a telemarketer because it was about 8:30 at night. And I said, "Yeah, what do you want?" He says, "Walt, you better fasten your seat belts. This is your old skipper from 112. And that's the first time I talked to that man since April the 1st, 1945. And we talked for about an hour. And I kept calling him Skipper, because he was, rank. And he says, "Walt, now my name was," I hope we're off camera. My nickname was Dick, And I said, "Oh yeah, we called you that quite often. Not to your face, but quite often." And he laughed. He thought that was funny as it could be, But sharp as a tack at 96.
Wow, that's funny.
Oh.
We had a Ensign Benson and a Lieutenant J.G. DeGius.
Oh, Jesus. We had a Benson also, as a matter of fact.
Benson?
Yeah, we had an Ensign Benson. Yeah.
How funny.
We had I got a kick out of the skipper called me in the office, and he said, we were in Port Leote, French Morocco, just above Rabat. And he said, on Christmas Eve, he called me in the office, he says, got a mission for you. And I says, oh, thanks a lot, skipper. He says, go down to Casablanca, they're going to load your airplane up, and you're going to take it up to Algiers to Admiral Hewitt. Oh, okay. So we went down, loaded 100 cases of Old Crow whiskey, 24 bottle cases. Got to Algiers, we were still in flight, and been there about 3 hours, I guess. But we were going to go back to Casablanca the next morning. And his aide come over and he says, the Admiral would like to have you over for dinner tonight as his guest, your whole crew, for bringing up his cargo. And I said, well, we don't have any, Class A uniforms. He says, we know, it's fine. And that's the way to eat in the Navy. Believe me, 3-star Admiral is what kind of he gets. And we were about an hour into the dinner, I guess, and heard his aide whisper something to him. He looked over to me and he says, Lieutenant, we have a problem. I said, sir? He said, seems there's a package missing off of that flight. I said, well, sir, we didn't load it, we didn't unload it. We just flew it up here. Okay. So next morning we got back in the airplane, about an hour into the flight. Tail turret called me and said, hey, skipper, guess what? I found a bottle of old whiskey down here in the turret of this airplane, of my turret. Oh, okay. Hey, Skip, this is the way, left way said, I found another one underneath the floorboards and back here. They had broken open a case and stacked booze all over that airplane.
Funny.
And of course, time we got back to Port Leote, we were pretty well schnockered because it was good scotch too, Old Crow. And, oh my Lord.
That's funny. We got to talk.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You betcha.
All right. Okay. You alluded to why the city incorporated, and is there? Okay, I think we already talked about that. What were some of the challenges the early leaders faced, after incorporation?
Oh gosh, there was infighting. There's an old adage that everybody wants to be a chief, nobody wants to be an Indian. That was what was going on for a while. And it didn't last long because, I want to be in power, no, I want to be in power, this type of thing. And that put kind of a slow damper on things for a while, but not bad. Then they finally decided, hey, wait a minute, we're not getting anywhere this way. We better start pulling together. And they got together and proved out to be very, very good, as far as that's concerned. Now, I'm very pleased with this. Even though I don't live in Lawndale anymore, I still consider it, one of my homes, as it were, because I have a lot of friends in Lawndale and things like that.
All right. So, what did the early city leaders do to develop, the city facilities and infrastructure?
Oh gosh, the first thing I think the first thing they did was clean up the boulevard. It was getting a little run down, but they cleaned it up and put in the new lighting, which I like very, very much, and just one thing at a time. They didn't try to do it all at once. They did one thing at a time and did it well. And look what they've done lately. Look at this whole new civic center over here, for goodness sakes. It was a kind of a run-down thing for many, many years until the administrators said, look, let's do something. But I think they've done a magnificent job, but it took them a little while because of the infighting, as it were, because Joe Dokes over here, he wanted it done his way, and then Mary Smith wanted to do it in another way, and they were infighting that way for a long time, but they finally all got together and said, look, this is the way it could be. And then they started pulling together, and it shows. They've done a beautiful job, I think.
Excellent. Do you remember the first city hall?
No, I really don't. I really don't at all. Vaguely, but I couldn't describe it if my life depended on it.
Okay, no problem. Do you remember when they built this current city hall?
Oh yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was it like back then? What were they doing?
Oh gosh. Well, of course, the school was there. You know, they had to get rid of the school, and which it was later. But right at City Hall now, they, if I remember correctly, because I was involved in Hawthorne at that time. But I don't remember that much about what they did, except that I do know that they had a little bit of wrangle about the plans for a while, but they got that ironed out and started pulling together and put in that beautiful facility. Period. Look what they did with the library. My Lord, that thing is gorgeous as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
And
it is.
and I think this administration today has just gone overboard. And I think they've surpassed anything else in Sentinel Valley, frankly, for progress. Period.
Very good. Let's talk a little bit about Hawthorne Boulevard. And I'd like to try and go back as far as you can remember and how Hawthorne Boulevard has changed over time.
Oh dear. There used to be all kinds of little places of business and quite a few bars on Hawthorne Boulevard, from Rosecrans to Redondo. There was a very famous, I think it was called the Red Barn, I think. It was kind of a cowboy place, and right on just about Redondo Beach Boulevard. You better wear a pair of brass knucks when you went in there. It was a rough place. But overall, it's always been fairly clean, but there was a certain element there for a while, I'm talking years ago, that didn't do justice to the boulevard. They were more torn down places than it is today, of course. But my memory goes kind of. I don't like to think of the bad things, and I like to remember the good things that happens, and some very good things have happened to the boulevard.
So, but initially it used to be called Railroad Avenue.
Yeah, right.
And it had the railroad coming down.
Right.
And then they removed the railroad.
Right.
And then it was kind of like a ditch.
Oh yeah, it was a big ditch. A lot of people thought Standard Oil bought that right away, so they could sell more gasoline. No, General Motors did. General Motors is the one that bought up all that right away and tore those tracks out. Now, at Rosecrans and Hawthorne Boulevard, you had to kind of make a little dip because there was a ramp from Rosecrans. It went over. There's a little hill right there, a little knoll. And because I was at the 100-mile-an-hour club one night, and this car come run down and didn't make it, and flipped and ended up next to a tree, and killed one guy in there. But he went airborne because he hit that little rise. And I forget what year they finally ironed that out, but then to what it is now, it wasn't as wide as it is now, and it was only, I think, 2 lanes at that time, if I remember correctly, and my memory's leaving me sometimes. But no, the boulevard itself has been pretty much the same. More improvements all the time, which is great.
What are some of those improvements?
Oh dear. Well, like I said many times before, the lighting, the street lighting, the storefronts are up to modern times, and sidewalks are kept clean, and the shrubberies, and the trees are just taken care of very well. And like I said, the boulevard does great right now.
Have they always had the parking in the center median?
Not always. No, because they had, after they took the tracks out, there was dirt. You could park in the dirt. They had logs down the center of it for your parking against there, and it was not paved. But then when they paved it, then they didn't have any curbs along there where you had to go into the center. You just pulled in there and parked. But now that they've done that job, which is also a great engineering feat, I think, the way they've done it. Period. Yeah.
All right. Can you tell us about the San Diego Freeway? I know that it took quite a while to plan it because they had to acquire the land, and I know that ultimately it kind of split the city in half.
Yeah, yeah.
What do you think? How do you think the San Diego Freeway affected the Lawndale community?
I think it split the city, split it up, and there was a lot of controversy over it because they had to go to eminent domain, and I gotta have some more water. And took out a lot of houses, a lot of cornfield too. The whole place used to be cornfields, but I think for a while, it split the city, especially during construction. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you've heard of the Inglewood Fault for earthquakes. It's sitting right underneath the freeway, even at the curb. Before they put the freeway in, if you're flying over, you can see the difference. And they put the freeway right on top of that fault, from Inglewood all the way to South Bay.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but it's true. Yeah.
So I guess the San Diego Freeway is a little bit of a double-edged sword.
Oh, absolutely.
Good in some ways and bad in some ways.
Yeah, that's right. It's true. It's good in one respect because you can get from here to Long Beach or someplace like this. I take it every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I go to the gym down in Torrance. I pick it up at Hawthorne Boulevard and get off at Crenshaw, which is great for me. But like I said, though, it kind of there's that part of Lawndale, and there's this part of Lawndale. And it's almost like never the twain shall meet for some reason or other, because of the separation of the two sections. But I think the freeway is a necessity. Before, we just couldn't even drive anywhere, for crying out loud. All we had was aviation, which was called Redondo Boulevard then, not even aviation, period.
Okay. So, San Diego Freeway, you think it's brought some prosperity to this?
I think so. I think so. It's been good financially, in some respects, But my Lord, what would we do without it? We couldn't move. Period. It's bad enough even with the freeway. 20 years from now, it's going to get worse. Period.
I have a question, and this is pretty much unrelated. Why did they call it the San Diego Freeway? Because it's not even in San Diego. It goes from L.A. to Orange County.
That's right. Yeah, I have no idea why they named it San Diego Freeway. Well, originally because it was going to San Diego, but my Lord, it goes all the way to San Francisco if you want to take it with a few jogs.
Well, the 5.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what is the 5 called? Well, I know it's the Santa Ana Freeway. It's the well, anyway.
Look at the 91 freeway. That was named after Glenn Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Anderson was the youngest mayor in the United States. He was 23 years old when he was Mayor of Hawthorne.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The way he became mayor, he and his partner had motorcycles, and they were almost terrorizing him on Hawthorne Boulevard, making noise. Jack Swatman, which is a big realtor, said, "Look, if you stop that nonsense, I'll make you mayor of this town." And Glenn says, "Okay." So his partner says, "What are you gonna do for me?" And he says, "Well, I'm sorry, son, but you're about 5 years difference in age." He says, "You're too young for this, I said, "Okay." You know who his partner was? Me.
Oh.
We terrorized Hawthorne Boulevard with motorcycles.
Funny. Wow. So that could really almost be the Walt Dixon Freeway.
Yes, it could have been. Of course, Glenn went he was lieutenant governor of California, and then he became a congressman for this district.
Wow.
And he married one of the girls in high school that I graduated with. It was his first marriage.
Amazing. What do you think? I know that wars come and go, but they always seem to have an effect on communities. Whether the members of the community go off to fight in the war, or either they're left behind to take care of the community, the children and stuff. What kind of an effect do you think World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War has had on the city or the community of Lawndale?
Well, I remember during World War II, not only in Lawndale, but Hawthorne, L.A., and the whole United States, we grouped together. Anything that the war effort needed, they got. Kids would take their tires off of their bicycles for the rubber, to recycle. Ladies would give up their silk stockings for the war effort. Let's face it, you're only allowed 3 gallons of gasoline a week. They were rationed. Of course, I was overseas all that time, but then, it brought the country together. The last couple of wars, they've torn the country apart. There's differences of opinion. There's split whether they should be. My grandson just got back from Iraq after the 3rd tour. He spent 3 times over there. Just got back last month. People are, as long as they're over there, I'm going to support the living daylights out of them. Period. But there's a lot of people who don't. It's a split nation now, as far as I'm concerned, and I don't think I don't like it. Period. I don't like the war because I don't think we're ever going to win it. Not the way we won World War II. There's too much appeasement, and you can't. And that's a religious war in the Gulf right now. You're not going to win a religious war. Period. It's been going on for centuries. But like I said, exactly. And now Korea was the starting of the downfall, as far as I was concerned, because I think they should have crossed the 38th parallel. They kept going. Period. Vietnam was a joke. My son was in Vietnam. But God bless them. They did a heck of a job, but we didn't win the war. Just like Walter Cronkite said, you better get out and get out honorably. And the thing that's going on now, well, you know who Paul Tibbets was?
Name is familiar.
Dropped a bomb in Hiroshima.
Okay. He was the pilot?
He was the pilot.
Of the Enola Gay, right?
Enola Gay, a very good friend of mine. And he was a hawk right at the time he died last year. He says, he just put me in charge over there. He says, I'll win that war in 2 days. He says, give me 5 good nukes. I'll take care of it. And he would, because they're doing the same thing that they did in Vietnam. They take a place, then they give it back. How can you win a war that way? You can't win a war. Let's face it. Either go over there and during World War II, if we took a town, if you want the town back, you better come fighting for it. And we weren't going to give it back to you, free of charge. Period.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the way we're conducting our business overseas.
No,
right
I'm
now.
not either. I'm not either.
There's too many good. I always look at it as brothers.
That's
we're
right.
Brothers and sisters.
That's right.
The brothers that came before me and my brothers that came after
Right.
me. These are good people, and to be giving their lives for
Sure.
misguided war efforts.
Exactly.
I don't know. I'm not in total agreement with
No,
our national foreign policy.
I'm definitely with you on that one. Absolutely.
It's a waste of our
Resources, waste of men, and things like that. However, I get a little upset when they keep hollering about, we've lost 4,000 men over these 3.5, 4 years. June the 6th, 1944, one day we lost 8,000 on D-Day in Omaha Beach. But I'm with you. I think the foreign policy stinks. I don't think it'll get any better.
I don't necessarily think it's our responsibility to be
No.
the world police.
No, we're not.
I think that, I don't get into this and stuff, but and we should probably talk, you know, over a sarsaparilla or
Yeah,
something.
right, exactly,
You know,
exactly.
but you know, you know, I understand that we need to, you know, work our economic policy so that we can have our Western civilization and commerce and stuff. But at the same
Yeah,
time,
but by the same token,
it is so unbalanced right now.
but at the
It's
same token,
crazy.
we have the Western culture. Let the Easterns have their Eastern culture. Don't try to put our philosophy upon them.
Well, that's the problem. You know, it's the culture
They're right.
that that they can't seem to disassociate from the economics.
Right.
And what's happening is that, you know, you've got all, you know, like Chinese products that are flooding into the
Oh,
United States,
oh,
but
yeah.
we can't sell nothing
That's
over
right.
there.
That's right.
How is that fair?
That's not fair.
It's not fair.
It's not
you know,
fair.
so
Period.
Anyway, okay, so freeway. Okay, we have a little bit of a problem in terms of some of the gaps of information that we're trying to fill in right now. And we've got lots of great information from like the early days, you know, coming up through, you know, the 50s. But where we start kind of losing track of things is around the 60s,
60s,
70s,
70s.
80s.
Right.
And if you could maybe help us fill some of that, that would be great.
I wish I could, but I've got the same thing in Hawthorne. We've got that gap that we cannot seem to correlate what was transpiring in those three decades for some reason or other. It's just it's lost history. It seems like.
It's weird, you know. It's almost like, you know, were people on drugs and they weren't like
Yeah, right,
documenting
exactly.
stuff? It's like
I run into it all the time. It's incredible. You know, and trying to dig up history thing is just impossible for some reason or other. I don't know why. I know it's out there,
you know, somebody remember.
but where is it? That's, you know, I've got the same problem you people have.
All right. What does the future hold for Lawndale?
I think I see great more progress. It goes up all the time. But I'd say 10 years from now, we probably won't even hardly recognize it because of the progress. Things is going to transpire between now and 2020, for instance, you know. And I think everybody's going to be amazed of the whole Centinela Valley, as far as that's concerned. But I think Lawndale more so than any other city. And between Lawndale and Hawthorne, you know, it's going to be. I think it's going to be the place of Centinela Valley, all over the place. Yeah. I can see the trend coming up right now, as you can. You know.
It's interesting how, you know, when you look at, like I was saying earlier, you know, this is where, you know, the families move, the young families, because it's a nice starter city.
That's right.
But at the same time, it's only a couple miles from the beach.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we see the property values of Manhattan and El Segundo and Hermosa and Redondo. I mean, those are $1 million homes.
That's
now.
right. That's right.
$1 million homes. I mean, how many families can start, you know, living in an area like that? But you've got the clean air. We get the same air that the Hermosa gets, same air that Torrance gets. You know,
Yeah.
Manhattan Beach.
And the funny
It's
part
a
about
beautiful place.
the beach area, for some reason or other, they think that whole area over there is a gated community. You know, well, I live in Manhattan. No, I live in the tree section of Manhattan Village. I wouldn't live there if they give it to me. I don't know if you know about the place. There's no sidewalks or curbs. It's dirty. You know, no place to park. But it's the tree section.
Hermosa has a worse parking problem than
That's
Lawndale.
right. That's right.
So
The whole beach area does.
I have a friend that lives down there, and I hate going down there to visit him because there's no parking.
Well, I
I'm
have a
not
friend that
gonna
lives at
park
8
3
that
to
lives
5 blocks away.
on 8th and Strand in Hermosa Beach. I know exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's just no place to park. Period.
You become isolated
Yep.
from anyone who doesn't live in Hermosa Beach.
That's
they
right.
can't walk to your house.
That's right.
Yeah, so I used to hang out there quite a bit when I was, just got out of high school and stuff. As all the kids do.
Oh yeah, well, sure.
It was a fun place, but boy, I would not consider Hermosa Beach as a place I would want
No,
to
me either.
raise
Well,
a family.
the thing that Lawndale's always had a little stigma because years and years ago it was very poor people lived here. And they had a lot of pig farms and things like that. And people still got that connotation until they open their eyes and see what's happening here. And like you say, I had much rather live in Hawthorne or Lawndale than Hermosa or Manhattan Beach. Because like you said, people are snooty. Things like that. For some reason they think they're gated for some reason or other. And most of their lot, even the $1 million homes, may only be 1,200 square feet. Things like that.
Well, you get up, in the morning to go to work, and there's a drunken 22-year-old
Exactly.
passed out in your front yard.
That's right, exactly. Oh, absolutely. I'll take this area.
And not only that, but when you look at, like the Inland Valley,
Yeah.
the smog out there and the heat,
Yeah. And look, they've been hollering about 100 and 105, 106. I have not turned my fans on in the house yet. Period. I open up the big bay window on the facing the west, open up the 2 back bedroom windows. I get a nice cool breeze through there.
it's a sweet spot.
That's right. And down at the beach, anything you got out, your automobiles, if they're not in the garage, even when they are, they're rusting away because of the salt water, or the salt air. And here we get a nice breeze and things like that.
Well, only just a couple of years ago, these were $500,000 homes.
Oh, yeah.
That's $1 million home over there.
I know.
10, 15 years from now, those will be $2 million homes, and this will be $1 million
That's
homes.
right. That's right.
Here.
Yeah, that's right.
So,
Yeah, it's incredible. It really is. And of course, we're getting so much of an influx of people, and
yeah, but it's always been that way.
I know, but I think we got more illegals now than we ever had before.
Oh yeah. There's but they're just going to keep on coming.
Oh yeah,
The cities are just going to keep getting
bigger
more
and
populous,
that's right.
and it's just the way this community has gone. I mean, it's only been really only about 100 years or so, and that if you look at
There's
European
nothing.
civilization,
There's nothing. That's
that's
right.
nothing.
No, but nowadays you open your bedroom window and talk to the first person next door, through their bedroom window, like this, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, they're packing them in.
Oh yeah,
it's just. But that's kind of the history of Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, oh absolutely.
Started out as a little pueblo,
Yep,
and kept growing. Now here we have concrete from Santa Barbara to San Diego.
Eventually we'll have megalopolis all the way from San Francisco to San Diego. Be completely built up.
They did a thing on Saturday Night Live one time back in years ago. They were talking about how the spread of concrete, and that they were renaming the area that goes from like Boston to Washington. They're going to call that city Boswash.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
This is going to be what did they say? Los Diego and something like that. Anyway, kind of funny.
Yeah, California.
That's pretty much all the questions I have.
Okay.
Is there anything that we haven't discussed that you think is important, or you'd like to, put out there? Anything that you came wanting to talk about, but maybe we didn't?
Not that I can think of. Of course, Roy Rogers was here.
That's right. Right over here.
Yeah, right. Len Sly, but he would never admit it. He would never admit it. He lived in Lawndale. On a pig farm. His folks own a pig farm over there.
He has a museum out here
Yeah.
in with the Hesperia.
Yeah.
They got Trigger.
Yeah, they got still stuffed. But also there's on 147th Street where Mac, the old radio man, that was
Great gentleman.
great guy. Once it was a music studio, then it was a roller rink.
I didn't know it was a roller rink.
Roller rink. Not very long, but it was a roller rink for a while. Yeah. Yeah, because I remember walking by there sometimes, not a roller rink, but there'd be somebody practicing the scales singing. Oh my God, what's that noise? You know? But that's what it was. Yeah.